if we hadn't had a chance to meet yet, my name's Jeremy. I'm what keeps us from having a regular pastor, and I'm real thrilled that you're here to be a part of this. But if we haven't spent any real time like talking and hanging out, then you might not know this. But if we've been together for 5 minutes, you know this about me already. I love gadgets. I love any kind of gadget. It doesn't really matter to me. Anything that has a button or a wire automatically, is like included in the gadget world. Like I see stuff and everybody knows, man, I'm trying really hard not to buy that, but it's likely going to happen soon. So I love those things. I love anything that with a button or a wire or a screen or any of those kinds of things. I just like to play with them. I like to monkey with that junk. It just is how I guess I'm wired. I don't know what the deal is, but there's another part of it is I don't just like gadgets that like are electronic things. I like anything that's a gadget. Like I'm automatically drawn to stuff. Like there's that thing that sharpens knives on, have you seen this on TV? It sharpens knives and I don't really need to sharpen knives, but I want one because it can sharpen a credit card and you can cut a tomato with your credit card. I don't cut tomatoes, but I want one. I want one really bad, okay? Like, and if you are out shopping, and you're like, hey, there's that tomato sharpener that sharpens credit cards. I want that, okay? I want it, and this is how it is. Like I could watch for hours. I could watch those life hack videos. On Facebook. Some of you are laughing because you do the same thing, right? You're scrolling through and it's like life hacks, 16 life hacks. I'm like, oh, I need 16 life hacks. I need this, like how to use a pop bottle. That's a Coke bottle. Like for 15 different things. I'm like, I could do that because I got those, and I like stuff like that. I don't know what it is. I just like the convenience of it. Maybe it's my simple mind. I get it. Okay, like anything. But things that aren't convenient frustrate me. Like that dude on the video that's mowing his yard with an electric lawnmower. That's supposed to be some sort of advancement. That's not an advancement. The idea of mowing, that seems like a great way for me to kill myself, because I'm going to mow over a cord. That's a stupid idea. That doesn't make any sense to me because that's not fun. I want stuff that makes life easier, right? Not harder. I love the convenience. To be honest with you, what I really like is cutting corners, okay? Like what I really like is something that was going to be difficult now is easier, we have it. It's easier. Like when I was 16 years old, I remember I stopped liking stopping at stop signs because it's so inconvenient. So I started just driving through people's yards, like cut the corner. And my mom told me eventually that is illegal as well. So I should just run the stop sign. That makes total sense. And I cut the corner. All the white bordered ones, they're optional. I told the kids they don't believe me. So my wife doesn't believe me anyways. But so there's lots of things. I like stuff that makes things easier. And the truth of it is I'm like, it's hopeless for me. I just like everything that's all kinds of easy. We live in a world that is obsessed with convenience, right? Like just a few years ago, Sheila and I would have this conversation. I can't remember, 10, maybe 11 years ago, we'd have this conversation like, there's no way I would ever put my credit card or my debit card or our information into a website and just throw it out there for who knows who to have and then just use it. We are not going to be shopping online, right? Amazon, right? $177 billion last year. Just take a second and soak that in. I promise you, we more than tithe to Amazon, right? Like we spend more than 10% of our income. It's got to be. It seems like it because we're constantly ordering something from Amazon. It's like this. One of our daughters clipped a mailbox the other day, knocked her mirror off. The first thing I did, open the Amazon app. I'm like, where is it at? Oh, look, there's one right there, $28. What a deal. And like we contributed our family's portion to their $177 million because billion dollars. Sorry, I misquoted that. Just think for a second, $177 billion. And it's just a place. Like they could run the world, Like, and then the Starbucks app, okay? Now, I'm not pushing back. Those of you who don't know me know well. I love Starbucks, right? And I have the Starbucks app. They reported $6 billion of income last year. About $2 billion of that is attributed to mobile ordering. Now, mobile ordering is like a whole new world of Starbucks convenience, right? There's this first level of Starbucks convenience. I don't want to make my own coffee. So I go in there and I have a person with a fancy name, barista, also known as coffee maker, right? So like we used to call her Mr. Coffee, okay? But the barista, or I don't know if is it a guy, if is it a baristo, I don't have a clue, but whatever. So the guy behind there, they just had their sensitivity training this week. You know, they had this big sensitivity training thing. I told them, if you guys start hugging me, we're gonna have trouble, okay? But so I just want coffee, nothing else, okay? So they make your coffee in a whole new level of convenience. Not only do I get somebody else to make my coffee, I get them to make it exactly how I want it. I want a venti espresso, venti Americano with an extra shot of espresso, and I want steamed cream, 5 sugars in the raw, or is it raw sugars or sugars in the raws? I don't know which one it is, but I want 5 of them, and I want you to put them in, and they mix it up, and I'm like, you guys stirred it, right? You know, and they stirred it, and it's perfect. Whole new level of convenience that I can mobile order my 5-shot Americano with steamed cream and 5 raw sugars. And I know exactly how it is. There's this one corner on the way to the Starbucks that I could, if I push the button, as I'm rounding the corner, they will have my like, I'll walk in and they'll be like handing it to me, you know? Like this is the epitome of convenience. $6 billion, $2 billion of it from mobile ordering. It's unbelievable what we've done. Like we are a culture that is like loves convenience. How many have Amazon Alexa or Google Home, or come on, you can, no shame, come on, show it. We have them all over the house, right? Okay, we have Amazon Alexa, and I love, this is my favorite part of the sermon, because for the first time, I can say the word Alexa and talk about her. First of all, she's a her in our life, okay? Like, talk about her, and I don't have to tell her to cancel it, because sometimes when we go to explain Alexa, then she pops up and starts listening and recording it and sending it to who knows who, right? Like, so, but the problem is, so like at home, we have to be careful when we explain it. We just say Alexa, we call her. So when you say her name, shh, you say this. We have, not only do we have these things, they'll play music for us, they'll do all these things, but it's the trifecta for me. Like, I am a total nerd, right? I love gadgets, and my wife let me do it. She's like, oh, it would be nice to have, that's kind of nice being able to turn that one lamp on and off with just saying it. After I got one of these little plugs, you know, and she let me, I'm like, did you say it was okay? You like that? Next thing you know, everything's wired like this, right? Like we say, Alexa, turn on the living room lights, and she turns on all the living room lights. Hey, Alexa, dim the living room lights to 20%. It's perfect. Alexa, turn off the kitchen lights, because we used to have to go around and touch the under cabinet lights 3 times each, you know, to turn them on and off, and it was a nightmare. And so, like, because we have to have a convenience, and now it's just, Alexa, turn the kitchen lights on, and they all come on, and I smile every time, you know. And you could set up like different things. Hey, Alexa, good night, and she turns everything off and turns certain lights on. Alexa, good morning, and then it does this, does certain lights. It's so awesome. There's this one thing I like to show our visitors. I'm like, Alexa, sexy beast mode. And it turns the bedroom lights red, and they dim to 30%. Yeah. Sheila doesn't like that as much as I do, but it's so funny with our visitors. So anyways, but we are like, we live in the world of convenience, don't we? We love convenience. Convenience is it, right? It's the best thing on the planet. Sheila hates it when everybody stares at her, by the way. But the whole thing, doesn't it? Like the whole idea of this whole like Alexa, like Starbucks, all this stuff, it's not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not pushing back on that stuff. I mean, these aren't stuff that are in your life. These are things that are in my life. I mean, my first answer is Amazon. The first thing I do in the morning was want coffee from Starbucks. I mean, we turn our lights on and off with our voice. I get it. It's not the convenience that's the problem. The question is, does it tell us something about our culture? Does it tell us something about you? Does it tell us something about my heart, about the way that I am just addicted to convenience, and I love it. And if it comes easy, I want it. If it takes work, man, I don't know. I'm not sure about this stuff. But you know what? This isn't new. This isn't just like recently. This isn't just like in the last 10 years or 15 years. This is something that's been around since the beginning of time. In fact, in Genesis chapter 9, there's the story of Esau and Jacob. There's this great deal. Esau has been out, and he even has that's a man's name, right? Esau. You know, You can't be a skinny little twerp with a name like that, right? You know, and see, Esau has been out hunting. Now, you guys know hunters, right? I mean, some of you are hunters, right? You go out and you hunt things, and you go out and you got your guns, and you get up there, and I can't deer hunt. I can't do it to save my life because it's too early in the morning, and it's too cold, and like, I would rather stay at home, you know, like I'm good. You could just bring me some, you know? And so, but like some people like that stuff. You go out and you get the hunting thing. Now, listen, I've talked to a lot of you about your hunting, and I never hear like, oh, we went out and we just wandered around, we didn't get anything, and we just came home, right? Because the days where you went out and you didn't get anything, you just, I just went out there to adjust the deer stand and make everything look good, you know? I just wanted to go out and make sure the duck blind was good. I wasn't really planning on shooting anything there. We didn't really hunt. We just hung out, you know, and cooked and whatever. But this is one of those days, but Esau is honest about it. When he goes out and he doesn't catch anything, he comes back and he's like, I didn't get anything. I'm starving, because it wasn't just sport for him. It was food, right? And so Esau's got this whole thing, and his brother is cooking. He's cooking soup, right? I mean, I don't really like this stuff, but like I don't ever wake up in the daytime and go, man, you know, I'd really like some good vegetable soup. Now, some of you can, okay, right? But to me, I'm like, vegetable soup is beef stew waiting to happen, right? Okay, like it's just beef stew without the beef in it. So I'm like, cut up some beef and put it in there and we'll be okay. Or at least put pretend meat like chicken or something in there. And we can eat it, but like he's cooking some lentil stew. That sounds even worse than vegetable stew. But lentil stew, I don't even know what a lentil is. But some sort of bean, maybe, I don't know, whatever. So it's in this thing, and he's making it, and his brother Jacob's making this, and Esau comes back from hunting. He's starving. He hasn't had anything to eat, and he looks over, and his brother's making this stew, and he's like, look, I want some stew. He's like, man, you can't have any. This is mine. He goes, I tell you what, I'm the firstborn of our family. I have the birthright. It's a big deal, okay? That doesn't mean anything to us, but it means the world to them. He's like, I'll give you my birthright for this stew, just for this meal. He's like, you mean it? You seriously, you're going to promise this? Like pinky swear, we're going to blood brother the whole thing away. We're going to make this agreement and you're going to do this. And he says, yeah, I'll do it. Because he's like, listen, this birthright's not doing me no good right now. And I want what I want. I want it now. I'm dying. I can't wait to eat. And he's like, I want that now. Who cares about this birthright? I'll trade you. And he does. And the writer of Hebrews in chapter 12 warns us against it, because he talks about this kind of in past tense, what happens in Genesis. And he says this in Hebrews chapter 12. He says, watch out for the Esau syndrome. I love the way that the Message paraphrases that. Watch out for the Esau syndrome, trading away God's lifelong gift to satisfy a short-term appetite. Man, isn't that what we do all the time? Trade away God's long-term gift to satisfy a short-term appetite. It happens in all of our lives. We're like, man, we've been dating a while, and I want to do what's right, but man, we want to have sex before we get married, and I know it's not God's plan, I know it's not God's best, but I really want to satisfy a short-term appetite instead of wait for God's long-term plan, right? Or we have like this part in our marriage where we're struggling to communicate, and we want to have a good communication, but the truth is, this other person laughs at my jokes. This other person is nice to me. This other person is kind. This other person doesn't treat me this way. And so it's easier to satisfy a short-term appetite with this person rather than honor God's long-term plan and wait for what God does in our life. And this isn't just our morality. It's not just us taking a short-term appetite thing and trading it all the time. It's our heart's position about things. And he says this, you well know how Esau later regretted it, right? He regretted the impulsive act and wanted God's blessing. He wanted his birthright back, but it was too late, tears or not. We all get to places like that in our life, and we struggle at times to be patient and believe that God's long-term plan is more valuable than the short-term satisfaction of an appetite. And it's not just about what we want to do in the beginning. It's bigger than that. It folds over, it runs over into every part of our life. Things that take work are not worth waiting for. So we show up to church and we're like, I didn't really like it. I tried church for a little while and I just didn't get much out of it. Or, I went to this small group thing and I went twice and I was like, it was kind of weird and I didn't get it and it felt awkward. So I bailed on it. Or I went to this for a little while and I tried reading my Bible and it just was confusing, so I gave up on it. When you compare our consumer kind of driven, our convenience addicted kind of mindset, our short-term appetite to God's long-term plan, when we compare that and we see Jacob and Esau's story and we compare that to something like Moses' story. Now, Hebrews chapter 12 is where Esau syndrome was, and in Hebrews chapter 11 is what we kind of call the Hall of Faith, because it's the stories of all of these unbelievable, like, matriarchs and patriarchs of our faith, these people who are like, by faith, this happened in our life. By faith, this person. By faith, this person did this. And so it talks about these faith stories of these unbelievable people. When you compare Esau's story to Moses' story, where it says in chapter 11, he says this, by faith, Moses, when grown, refused the privileges of the Egyptian royal house. You got to know a little bit about Moses' story. He was born at a time where infants were at risk. And so his mom didn't want to risk him. And so she gave birth to him, parented him for a little while, put him in a basket and put a top on it and slid him down the Nile River where the Pharaoh's daughter would find him. And so the Pharaoh's daughter sees this baby and takes it out and wants a baby of her own and decides, I'm going to raise this child as my own. Moses' mom was one of the handmaids to the Pharaoh's daughter. And so she got a hand in raising her son, but he gave her up. And so when he was older, it says, by faith, when he was grown, he refused the Egyptian royal house and wanted for something that was far more difficult. Look at the next part. He chose a hard life with God's people rather than the opportunistic, soft life of the sin with his oppressors. He's like, he chose to say, no, I'm gonna put away all of the easy things in life, and I'm gonna do what's difficult rather than what's easy. It's his name that is such a valuable piece of the story. Moses, he is faithful to God's big picture plan. It's powerful. And he says this, he valued suffering in the Messiah's camp rather than the Egyptian wealth because he was looking ahead, anticipating the payoff. Do you see where it's going on? When you contrast Esau's story of like immediate gratification, it's simple, I want it now, kind of, I'd rather trade you my birthright, what good's it doing me, to Moses' story where he chooses to be faithful to God's plan because he's anticipating the long-term payoff of God's unbelievable story. By that act of faith, it says, by an act of faith, he turned heel on Egypt. I love that phrase, right? He turned his heel on Egypt, indifferent to the king's blind rage. And he had an eye on the one thing that no eye can see. Isn't that crazy to say? That he kept his eye on the thing that no one's eyes can see. He kept on going. He kept his heels facing toward Egypt and kept going the way that God had called him because he had an anticipation of the long-term payoff rather than the short-term gratification. Man, that stuff is just not present in our life because process values the journey while convenience glorifies a result. Man, we want what we want and we want it now and we want it easy. I mean, our world does not value anything that relates to process. You're starting to get a glimpse into why we call journey. Because it's about the process, it's about the walk and the journey, about the steps that we take and about the journey itself. It's not about a destination. This idea of convenience glorifies this right now result. Have you ever wanted that? We all do. We all want something of it right now, even if it's just a little of it. We want everything, we want it now, and we don't want to have to work for it. But a journey, a process, values the steps along the way, even the ones that fall. The process values the journey. The convenience glorifies the result. I mean, that first verse we just looked at in verse 24, it says that by faith Moses, when he was grown, refused the privileges of the Egyptian household. I mean, he chose to do what was difficult. That's not easy to do, is it? It's not easy to do difficult things. But if we're going to take a next step, if we're going to say, you know what, my heart has learned to be addicted to convenience. I mean, I've got an Apple Watch, and because sometimes it's just so hard to pick up my phone and look at it, and like it's so difficult for us to wait a few minutes and be patient. If we're going to learn, if we're going to teach our hearts patience, if we're going to teach our heart to want for things that are difficult, we have to do difficult things. So that's what I'd challenge you. If you're going to take a next step out of this, do difficult things. I'm not just talking about your faith. Choose to do difficult things in general. Take the hard way sometimes. Like maybe you choose to garden instead of just run to the store and pick up some tomatoes. She used to drive me nuts because Sheila would want to grow tomatoes, and I couldn't taste the difference between a store-bought tomato and a grown tomato. It didn't matter to me. But there is something unbelievably valuable about going out and playing in the dirt and planting something and sweating and pulling the weeds and watching the plant grow and then picking something and going in and going, you know what? I taught my heart to be patient and wait for this. That's valuable. There's something great about this. Chuck, our family pastor, Chuck, he built his dining room table. We live in a world that doesn't have heirloom furniture. We don't have that stuff anymore, We used to get grandma's china cabinet. Now we get china cabinet that comes in a flat box and it's made out of press board. It's got a picture of wood on the outside, and we put it together and we screw together what looks like a $10,000 entertainment center, right? But it's all made out of sawdust and glue and a little picture on the outside of it, right? There's few things that are valuable. When Chuck made his dining room table, it's made out of I think about 4,000 pounds of wood, It's made of 2x12s, these giant, but it's huge, it's beautiful. And it's not just that it's beautiful in outward beauty, it's that he took time and sanded this place that his family will gather on. There's something valuable about doing difficult things rather than just running out and getting something easy. It's much easier to run to the store and get put together furniture. It's much easier to run to the grocery store and get a tomato. Maybe those aren't your things, but maybe you choose to do difficult things, not just because it's difficult, not just to punish yourself, but in some way just to say, Jesus, I'm going to do something difficult, and I want from it you to teach my heart to value the process, to value the journey rather than just this simple ease of running out and getting something. Because it's so easy, isn't it? It's so easy to run to church and sit down in a seat and go, man, all right, feed me, preacher. Come on, let's make it happen, And you just kind of sit there, and after a while, somebody comes to me, and this happens often. People go, well, I just wasn't being fed, so I switched churches. I'm like, you weren't being fed, huh? You came to church, and you sat down, and somebody didn't come up with you with your baby food and talk nice to you while they fed it to you and just tell you they were so happy. The truth is, if you're hungry, go feed yourself. God's word is written in English. They sell it at Walmart. It's not that hard to understand, right? You can't eat enough on Sunday morning for me to be able to, I can't possibly feed you enough on Sunday to make you last until next week, right? Any more than you could run to the buffet this afternoon, although we'll give it a shot, right? And shovel in enough food so that you don't have to eat until next Sunday lunch, right? So if you're hungry, you need to learn to feed yourself, but we don't value process. We value instant gratification. I want to go to church. I want to feel good. I want to go home. Then I want to go to do something. I want to listen to a worship song, get goosebumps, and then I want to go home. I want to do this stuff, and that's the reason why we struggle so much, is because our hearts are addicted to convenience and immediate payoffs. It wasn't Moses' story. Moses, look at that next verse we just read. He says that he valued suffering in the Egyptians' camp, in the Messiah's camp, rather far more than the Egyptian wealth, because he was looking ahead to the payoff, anticipating this payoff, looking ahead to what wasn't there. Man, we don't do good at that stuff. We want it now, right? And I'm not saying you want it now. Maybe you are great with this stuff. I'm not. I suck at this. I want what I want, and I want it now. I don't want to have to think about it. I want to talk about it. I am like walking id, okay? To see it is to want it is to have it. It's all the same thing to me. It's all one big process. It's just a matter of me knowing about it. In just a couple of days, tomorrow, in fact, is the developers conference for Apple, and I can't wait to see what's next. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, I promise. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's that I'm not patient, right? I think it's patience that I waited until June 4th and didn't read all the rumor sites. That we want time, because process takes time. Convenience is like right now, instant. We have to have what we want right now, and we're not willing to take time for it. Have you ever experienced that when it came to your time with God? Like where you go home and you're like, all right, I'm in, okay? You're going to church. I felt like God was doing something. I felt like I needed to do something. You can say, I'm gonna be committed to my devotions, just for instance, right? I'm gonna spend time with God. I'm gonna read the Bible, okay? And I get it. We've all been this. This is the reason I know that you've done this. Because we all go home, we're like, I'm gonna do it. Then next morning we get up, we open up the Bible and we're like, okay, all right, I'm gonna read it. And you read 2 verses or 10 verses or a chapter, or maybe it's January, so you read 3 chapters, right? Because you're going to read through the Bible in a year, or at least read through the first 3 days of it. So, and like you read it, and then you get to the end of it, and you're like, I don't understand that. Maybe it'll be better tomorrow. So you get up next morning and you open it up and you read it for a minute, and you're like, I don't get it. Maybe I'm missing something. So I'll try it again tomorrow, right? About 3 or 4 days into this, and the same things are happening. And we're keeping going like, man, I just don't get much out of it. And so we just abandoned it altogether because it didn't pay off quickly. The truth is that we call those things disciplines for a reason, because it takes time to discipline our heart to hear them and to see them as valuable. I wonder if we've ever considered this, that sometimes we open up God's word, or we spend time praying for people, or praying for worship, or listening to God speak, or spending time fasting. Maybe those things don't immediately feel valuable to us, because the first thing that God wants us to learn in it is to trust him. It's to trust him that reading his word will pay off in the long term. That spending time in a group of people and investing in those relationships will pay off in the long term. The first time I fasted, I didn't think it was that great of an idea. I'm like, I don't feel any different, you know? First time I spent time in solitude. There's a discipline that's not very rewarding at first. The first time I significantly spent time in solitude, man, I want you to know something. I'm an extrovert's extrovert, right? I'm the extrovert that makes extroverts look like people who hate public, okay? Like, I want to talk all the time. So, I mean, like the first time, I didn't like going fishing when I was a kid, because you can't talk during fishing, you scare the fish away. I don't like that. That doesn't sound like fun to me. So, like, I like to talk. And so the idea of spending time in solitude by myself and not speaking for any amount of time, 5 minutes, feels like torture to me. The first couple of times I spent time by myself, I think, I don't even understand what this is for. I had to trust that God would long-term pay that off. And it's been rewarding. Not always, but it's a discipline. So here's the deal. Not only do difficult things, but choose to value the disciplines in your life. Choose to value spending time alone with God. Choose to value reading his word. Choose to value studying it. I know that seems weird, but choose to value studying God's word. Skip a meal. Choose to value just the idea of denying yourself something. It might be simple for you. It might be saying, you know what, I'm gonna fast from chocolate for a week. And every time I recognize that want for chocolate, I'm going to recognize that I should long like this for Jesus. You know, or maybe you choose to have a social media fast or a technology fast where you just say, you know what, for a little while, I'm going to hit the pause button on this stuff. And I'm just going to step away from it for my own heart's good, to teach my heart to want for Jesus. Those are valuable things. They're not easy. I mean, it's in a world that's addicted to convenience and simplicity and things that we don't want to work for. We have to learn to want that. But it's so valuable when we keep our eye focused on the thing that does pay off in the long term, rather than the short-term gains all the time. But it's discouraging, isn't it? Because we fail. I mean, like, if we really value the journey, we have to value the bumps on the way. If we really value the journey, and this is, again, the reason that we named Journey Journey, was because we want to value the steps along the way. The thing that's different about when you walk through the door is that we don't look at you and hope that you one day will arrive here, because we don't really have a destination in mind. We really have a journey in mind. I don't want you to arrive one day at the way that this person or that person or somebody else is. What we want you to do is value the steps along the way. And sometimes those are steps that have some bumps. I mean, we get a chance to spend some time with some folks that have experienced some bumps in our lives. Sometimes people get a chance to spend time with us when we've experienced some bumps in our lives. The journey values the journey. It values every bump. It values the error. It allows for the fact that you and I screw up. The patience or the process allows for error. Convenience, man, it gets easily discouraged, right? If you say, you know what, I'm going to turn my life around and I'm going to give my life to Jesus, I'm going to begin to walk with him, right? And I'm going to do this. And then we mess up and we're like, oh man, I screwed up again. You know, the reason sometimes people will ask sometimes, why do you guys talk about grace so much? Because we're not talking about a destination. We're talking about a journey with Jesus. We're talking about walking with Jesus, not talking about how far you've gotten today. We're talking about taking your next step with Jesus, because your next step matters far more than your last one, right? The reason that we care about hurting people is because we care about their journey, not about their destination. You know what I've loved so much in the last year? I've loved being a part of Celebrate Recovery. It has been a blast for me to get to know people who are real and honest about their mess. And you may think that Celebrate Recovery is about drugs and alcohol. And there are some folks that have struggled through their addiction to drugs and alcohol, and it's fantastic. But it's not just drugs and alcohol. It's helping people take their next step out of their hurts, habits, and hangups. And we love it. What it really is not about recovery. It's really about discipleship. At the end of the day, we're just helping people figure out how to take their next step out of it. Now, it's a process. It's based on 8 principles that come out of Matthew chapter 5, where we apply those principles slowly and surely, and over time, we see triumph. There's this young man named Garrett. Garrett shared a story. I asked if we could talk about it. He said, absolutely. Garrett is 25 years old. He has 5 kids by 4 different ladies. By the time he was 17 years old, he had 2 kids. And when I met him 15 months ago, he was clean from heroin and a litany of other pills and drugs. And Garrett told me 2 months in, this is the longest I've been sober since I was 9 years old. That's crazy. I was just talking with him. I'm like, what are you scared of? And he said, man, I don't even know what it's like to consider being a productive member of society. That was his words. A week ago, we had him share a story at Celebrate Recovery. He's been clean 15 months now. It's unbelievable what God's done in his life. He's not only has he given his life to Christ, but he's walking with Jesus. And what's great about it is he went from this place where right after he started to get clean and started to get a little bit of clarity and figure out what life looked like. And he said, I'd never known what life looked like when I wasn't high. And so for him, like, just to see this story even play out at all was crazy. But he said to me that when he first got clean, that he would hit a bump, like some sort of discouragement or some sort of problem. He said, my first answer, the first thing I thought of was, let's go back to drugs. I just want to be high. I want to escape. And I said, well, where are you at now? And he said, man, I'm at a place now where getting high is maybe my 3rd thought, if I'm being honest. I'm like, dude, that's unbelievable. To go from your first option down to your 3rd option. And I'm like, so what caused that? What do you think was the biggest piece in that? He said, man, I came to an understanding one day that drugs wasn't my problem. Drugs was my solution. And that I ultimately needed to train my life so that Jesus was my solution. And man, that's huge. That's unbelievable, isn't it? That's huge. Man, it just blows my mind. Another young lady who's given her life, who'd been drinking since she was a kid, is 12 months clean. Another lady who has experienced the unbelievable pain of repeated affairs that her spouses had, and she has worked through it. And she's not through it all, but she's experiencing freedom. And it's unbelievable. But man, I got to tell you, you don't just walk in one time and go, hey, I'm at Celebrate Recovery. I'm here to celebrate my recovery, and then it doesn't just happen. It's a journey. It's a process. It has really great triumphs. It has really discouraging moments. I mean, you don't get to a place where you're 25 and strung out on heroin to a place where you're clean for 15 months without having a couple bumps along the way. But here's the deal. If you really want to take a next step in that, man, you got to know something. Process, it doesn't mean perfection. It just means patience. Patience with you. Patience with God. You've got to know that if they're really going to value the journey is a story of patience. So your next step in that, man, develop patience with the process of redemption. It's God's redemptive story, and he wants to tell it the way he wants to tell it. You get up and walk with him. You get up and be more like Jesus tomorrow than you are today, and then value whatever the steps are that day. And if you fall, value getting back up. If you struggle, value the fact that you have somebody to carry you. If you walk through it and it doesn't go the way you want, value that you have someone who's stronger than you. That's what this is about. It's not about immediate gratification. It's about valuing the long-term payoff. Avoid the Esau syndrome. Avoid the syndrome that just says, I want what I want and I want it now. Avoid that and play out for a longer game, one that pays off in your heart. Let's pray together. Jesus, we're just thankful that you are so good to us, that you don't just put us in the water or walk an aisle or something and then just count us and move on, that you don't just redeem us, you want to continually redeem us. God, we're just thankful that you love us enough to walk with us and be patient with us and love us and nurture us and grow us. And God, we're sorry that so often we want just the quick fix. So God, we just ask that you teach our hearts to be patient with us and patient with you. God, we ask that in your name, amen.